on occasions of development, it would not put its head. Something like when India came up with the COVID fund, Pakistan would not dare doing anything because they run on someone else's money. Coup can happen anytime. Pakistan is, after all, a cyclical democracy that we have seen, right? The civil society is weaker, institutions are weaker, the philosophical foundation is weak, and you have to hold the society together with religion. That's not the case with countries like India. Religion, as Marx said, it's opium for sure, for all negative reasons. And for Pakistan, I think it's little higher than that one.
Namaste, good evening, and welcome to Citti Media. My name is Sharan Sethi, and you're watching the Current Affairs Show. Joining us today for a conversation on Pakistan is Dr. Nanda Kishor. He is the head of Department of Geopolitics and International Relations of the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Dr. Nanda Kishor, thank you so much, and welcome to the show once again.
Thank you, Mr. Sharan.
We had a conversation, and mine was the first interview with you, and it's always good to have you back here.
Always my pleasure.
About insights from geopolitics and foreign affairs. Now, talking about Pakistan, Dr. Nanda Kishor, one of the former Pakistani army officers has been, has been given the Padma Shri, and this is quite a significant move, and it's quite a symbolic move. So, could you tell our viewers more about this?
Yeah, I think it's a tradition that India has been honoring for quite some time, in the sense, those of them who have been good friends of India, whether they're from Pakistan or whether they're from Bangladesh, they're from elsewhere. India hasn't made that sort of a difference, nor it has kept itself aloof just because of somebody's birth status. I think it is also very symbolic in terms of India sending across a message that we have nothing against the Pakistani civilians. It's about the people who are ruling, the people who are making decisions to go against India. I think from that perspective, whatever that was conferred to Qazi Sajad Ali Zahir, I think it's well in tune with the traditions that India has followed. And more so, I think the Bharatiya Janata Party or the NDA wanted to prove a point beyond what the other political distractors have been talking about. So I think it's well taken. And at the same time, see how this becomes a controversy in the sense there are other two Bangladeshis as well who have been part of the Bangladesh Liberation War, who have also been conferred Padma Shri. But the thing is, the word Pakistan becomes a buzzword, and everybody would want to just take a pie of it. That's how it has become. But more surprisingly, with the last 50 years, they have been searching for this individual. They've issued an arrest warrant in Pakistan, and then apparently he appears here. That's what has made or irked Pakistan to a big extent. More than anything, I was a bit surprised about some political parties and individuals within the country also taking a dig at, specifically the NCP. NCP said that anybody would chant Jai Modi, whether it's a Pakistani or a Bangladesh, right away they get a chance to. I don't think that's the case. I think there are hundreds of fans, hundreds of followers who have been saying that one, but that does not mean that every other person has been given the Padma Awards. It's the highest award, and it cannot be given to anybody and everybody. I think that's a very conscious decision that's been made. I think it's sending across a very strong message.
Very interesting. And also we've been seeing the differences come out between the civilian and the military leadership. I mean, this has been going on for a while, but recently there was a conference or a meeting that was concluded in Pakistan, the Troika Plus group. And what is the significance of this meeting, sir?
See, what we need to remember here is that Pakistan has to do something when India takes up similar type of an exercise. Right. So Pakistan wanted to say that I have another set of people. This is an expression of Pakistan's leadership desires, in the sense it's universalism, or it's universal aspirations in terms of showing that the great powers are with us, or we are able to manage with the great power. There was an expectation that whatever the role that they played with regard to Afghanistan, there would be a backlash from the United States. But surprisingly, it has gone the other way around. Now you see Pakistan able to bring United States, Russia, as well as China on board as three great powers, and then it is able to deal with them. This is a very interesting component. But at the same time, what it's trying to say is a bit confusing. It says that the economies in the neighborhood are weak. and the economies are not doing great, and this is very much important. We should not see to it that this thing, Afghanistan would not fall in the hands of the insurgents. It would not fall again into a civil war, where it least of the time recognizes that it was the prime reason for the civil war, and it is the one which has been fueling most of the problems that are associated with what we see in Afghanistan today.
Right.
So it is from that perspective, when it says that involvement with Afghanistan should not only continue but be strengthened in variety of ways, I think it's just laying foundation for the Chinese to make more investments, for the Chinese to have a greater role to play within Afghanistan.
Right. In that sense, is this a reactionary measure to what happened in Delhi with the Delhi Declaration?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's in proportion. I mentioned to you very, very clearly that if anything that has been done by India, it has to do, but on occasions of development, it would not put its head. Something like when India came up with the COVID fund, Pakistan would not dare doing anything because they run on someone else's money. That will lead us to the next question as well, which we will see. But for the Delhi Declaration, Pakistan was certainly surprised the way India pulled it off. And India kept it very low, much, much prior to immediately after the Taliban takeover in August. India had a meeting where several NSAs had come in, where only few of their names were revealed, and many others were here to discuss and talk how to take it forward. I think to that extent, India has been very, very successful in seeing to it that Taliban is not used against India. I think that was one of the main components of Delhi Declaration, where India again and again reiterated on the fact that the Afghan soil should not be used for extremist activities and to gun against the neighborhood or any other country or any other sovereign nation. That was very, very clearly said, saying that when either the Afghan land should not be, or the soil should not be used for sheltering, training, planning, or financing any terrorist act. That was something that India made it very, very clear in the Delhi Declaration. I think it's a huge success. India is again higher in number, where we had 8 countries participating in that one. That itself shows, and India is holding on to the real stakeholders. India is not holding on to someone who has left the country, right? Who has left it abruptly, and who has been a reason for the mess up since 1989, right? India has not done that one. India has spoken much more mature, right? Neither it is trying to target. And I said India's strategy has been very, very successful because so far, Pakistan has not been able to use Taliban against India. I think that was the prime idea, that they can have two-way attack, one from the Pakistani side, other one from the Taliban, from the Afghan side. I don't think they have succeeded in that one. That itself was a huge victory, because these are the countries that are direct stakeholders, whether you look at Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan, apart from Kyrgyzstan. These are the people, and they have even the population from these countries in Afghanistan. I think they matter much more than having China and the United States, which are going to pull off, or which are going to have very, very peripheral interaction with regard to this one. Though they might be great powers, but I don't think they're direct stakeholders. But India has tried to do this one with direct stakeholders. It has also brought in Russia, because Russia is playing a dual role, trying to be there, trying to be here, both the initiatives, whether it's from Pakistan or from India. But at the same time, we have been able to bring Iran and then the remaining Central Asian countries. For me, that's a value addition that India has done very, very successfully.
I'm really glad that you bring this point up, and I'd like to ask a small follow-up from you. Now, what the several Pakistani strategic analysts are saying is that the reason why Pakistan went ahead and armed many of these Mujahideens and the Taliban later was because of the fear that India would do so first.
No, that's again an accusation. India is not known for doing anything like this. And India has always said that irrespective of who comes in, we may not cozy up with them, we may not go hand in hand with them, but at the same time, we will not resist, because any resistance movement, for that matter, or any protest or anything of that sort, it has to start internally. It has to begin in that particular country. If those people don't want, who are we to go and intervene? Right. That's been India's prime position. I think that's been that's a very, very well argued position as well. Though there can be a temptation always to push India to get into the muddled waters and then later regret for what it has been doing. I think India is much safer with the present position. I think India has also conveyed a message very clearly that don't unnecessarily drag me. If you drag, I know how to deal with it, or I know how to respond.
In that sense, what does the changes within the Pakistani civilian military complex mean in the last few weeks that's been happening?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting with the nomination of General Nadeem Anjum. Right. I think the Pandora box is open, because till now Imran Khan was of the impression that he and the army is on the same page and things are rosy and everything will be all right. But I don't think that's the thing that's happening. Right. Because after all, when Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid was not given a chance to do this one, I think it just came out of the rand, in the sense there's going to be a very deep problem in the deep state of Pakistan very soon, where Bajwa is not going to keep quiet, because Bajwa is going to retire in 22. I think he was just preparing Hamid for this particular position, but Hadim was suicidal. In fact, had Hamid not been in too much of limelight, in the sense appearing in Afghanistan, appearing on different places and trying to just become more and more cozy to political class and other things, I think it did not work the way he anticipated. In the past, we have seen whenever the military tries to go very close to the political class, there would be a coup. So now there is this temptation to look at Pakistan, whether there's going to be something like that. I think it has just opened different type of a problem, because after all, at the end of the day, Hamid was typical liability to Pakistani force, because he was anticipating that he would be at ISI, and then subsequently there would be an elevation, which is very natural, and he can succeed Bajwa, because he is also Bajwa's blue-eyed boy. So now that Imran has taken a decision, he wants to go against, we can anticipate some firework, I think, within Pakistan.
Do you think there will be a coup?
A coup is very difficult to predict, because at this juncture, as a military leader also, you don't see Musharraf in him. You also don't see either Zia in him. That's a little difficult scenario, because that predictive function is not easy at this juncture. But I think maybe they wait for 1 or 2 more triggers. If Imran doesn't mend his way, I think the military will have its last laugh. And I think before that one, Imran will try doing something religiously. Imran will try using something from the backhand, in the sense either he will fuel any of the political parties, or he will fuel some extreme religious groups, so that suddenly he looks like he is not that moderate Imran, but he is our Imran. That's a feeling that some of these organizations have to get, so that even Bajwa is a little more careful and concerned not to step in too much and then go for a coup, because coup is much easier in Pakistan. But what after coup? To sustain a state, Bajwa might not be ready. I don't think even a coup is a big issue for him. For him, issue is that after that, he himself has to be in the forefront for all the things. Whether he is ready for that one is still a question. Otherwise, for me, coup can happen anytime. Pakistan is, after all, a cyclical democracy that we have seen. Right? The civil society is weaker, institutions are weaker, the philosophical foundation is weak, and you have to hold the society together with religion. That's not the case with countries like India. So that weakness is open secret at any point of time. So coup is not a big deal here, but what after coup is something that Bajwa is worried about at this juncture. Maybe trigger point, maybe 2 or 3 trigger points, it will certainly lead to that.
Right. I'm very glad that you bring this up, because I don't know if this is a coincidence, but apart from dealing with the TTP, now there is another major political force in the TLP that Imran Khan has to deal with and the army has to deal with. So how do you view these developments in the light of what's happening in Pakistan?
Yes, see, Tehreek-e-Labaik Pakistan has been a force to reckon with, though they were not very strong force from the political perspective. In terms of the number, they're still a very strong group. But that hasn't been the case. I'm sure our audience are aware of this is a Barelvi school, othering to the Hanafi school of thought. That's one of the jurisprudence within the Islamic theology, where it was founded by Imam Abu Hanifa. And they believe in one particular style of thinking or thought that comes as part of the jurisprudence to discuss about the Sunni way of life. Now, how does this particular group that has come in, if you look at, one is the strength of the Barelvi community. It's very, very strong. There is no doubt at all that they have been, in the sense they have been very, very dominant in the Punjab as well as in the Sindh region. But politically, as I told you, they have not been like Deobandis, where the Deobandis have been very, very powerful. If you could look at even from the geographical perspective, because they come from the group of Pashtuns that we talk about, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and then Balochistan, right? So they're not politically very strong, but of late they have actually become that sort of a part to reckon with, where now it is not just the TTA or TTP or any of other organizations, but it is also this particular organization, that is Tehreek-e-Labbaik of Pakistan, which has become very, very strong, because they're trying to just muzzle their power and show that from the numbers perspective, we are very, very powerful. What they were required, what they were in requirement was a leadership. What they were looking for as a community was someone to represent in a fearful manner. I think now they have got that one, because it has a new political force. If you look at, there are different components of it. You have Tehreek-e-Labbaik Ya Rasul Allah, that is called as the Tailra, which is, and the political wing is what we are talking about is the TLP. Okay. Now these two components are there. If these two components come together and they decide that they want to do this one, they're certainly going to be, because TLP emerged as largest religio-political party in 2008 general elections. Now that brings into the perspective that now every other group, from Hafiz to everybody, is throwing their hat, because now they think it's an open march. Anybody can have a say in Pakistan, and as long as you are clinging on to religion. I think religion, as Mark said, it's opium for sure, for all negative reasons. And for Pakistan, I think it's little higher than that one. So for sure, I think every other group will try. And now biggest problem for Imran Khan is that if he shows his allegiance or some amount of softness towards TTP, he will also have to show to TLP. So then if these groups start viewing him as a sectarian to a particular group, I think he'll be very, very in a big time trouble. But at the same time, because he has to appease other groups as well, he has to project himself as a very strong Sunni. He has to project himself outside Pakistan as a moderate. He has his own past to deal with. I think it's much more complicated, where they're going to make it more and more problematic for Imran. And that's precisely why I said, when it came to the question of the force or the army, I said now he has to cling on to some or the other group, just to make sure that he is not removed from this thing, because removing is a very simple word. I think he's not obliterated from the Pakistani politics. That's the word that I would want to probably use. I think he looks safer now, but he needs to be extremely careful, because these groups are becoming, or they're multiplying day by day. I think there are newer fractions that are coming in, and newer religious groups going fanatic. That's a problem. So how will he deal with the minority issue? How will he deal with all these Sunni groups that are expecting harsh and extreme measures from him? Is going to be very interesting.
Well, speaking about pandering to the Sunni audience, now what we've seen in Pakistan happen very recently is that Saudi Arabia has decided to bail out Pakistan, and Pakistan has been moving towards Iran. So how do these equations work, Dr. Nanda Kishor?
This is a classic component of what we talk in international relations as balance of threat and balance of power. I think Pakistan is trying to do both of them. That's why I've always said, though they behave stupid, but there is a rationality in their stupidity. This is what they say. Though this sort of stupidity is contagious, the others might also end up following it. I don't deny that. But at the same time, going closer to Iran is some sort of a signal that Pakistan is trying to send across, so that Salman or MBS will go close to them. Because of late they have shown that they are not too leaning with regard to Saudi Arabia, but the Chinese are there to bail out. Now the Chinese won't do anything just like that. And then you also have to prove at times to your Sunni community that you're very close to Saudi Arabia, but you have to manage Iran, right? All these complications, I think they just tried playing this Iran card, due to which now Saudi Arabia wants to be in the forefront. That's precisely why the 4.2 billion assistance to Pakistan, because for 6 weeks continuously Pakistan has been failing. 6 weeks continuously it's been struggling. I think once more very soon, Imran Khan may say that he may wants to, put for auction his buffaloes or his cows or whatever that I think. So very soon we will see, or he may put up even some artifacts and other things in his house. That's a sort of sorry state of affairs in Pakistan. I feel bad for those people in the civil society who are innocent and who don't deserve this type of governance. But at the same time, the strategy is very simple. One, Saudi Arabia still wants to be the leader of the Islamic world, more so the Sunni world. And they don't want another state which is neither a Sunni state nor a Shia state, nor you can very specifically give. Still, that number of Sunni still goes very close to Pakistan. So they don't want to give up on them. So they're trying to bail out. I think at the same time, they're also trying to look at what other possible ways they can use Pakistan as a market. I think MBS is extremely smart. He just doesn't give, or he doesn't do anything just because somebody is Sunni or somebody is Shia. Even somebody is Shia, Saudi Arabia went ahead and supported them in Iraq. So they go for, as we say, that nothing separates people than interest. I think it is Saudi Arabia's interest that he is trying to push across, in which he's trying to bail out. And this is not his money alone. Anyway, there are a lot of princes who are staying in the jail. So every time he needs to bail out a country or give some money, he can put somebody in there in Saudi Arabia, and then he can collect a ransom and then give it away. So it's not his money nor his government's exchequer's money. So one need not worry about it. But at the same time, it still proves that Pakistan is able to pull off these type of tricks. It simply shows that they are shameless with regard to begging someone else. But in that begging also, they would want to put up a face saying that one, see, I was able to get it from Saudi Arabia. This is sort of a paradox that they have to live with. But it's interesting the way they are trying to see to it that Pakistan doesn't go close to Iran and then continues to say, because this is a challenge that they have put to Iran. I have done this one. If you're capable, you do it. So the one who will benefit from this is Pakistan, right? Whether Iran will be able to pay or not, I think Iran will go silent for now because they are unable to take care of their internal affairs. They will not be able to pay up. But still, it is very interesting because these are all connected issues. You have the Sunni politics happening, extremist organizations and religious organizations playing a role that has direct connection with the military, and military is trying to upset the political scenario within Pakistan, and that military is trying to look after the regional security scenario with regard to from Taliban to everything. That's why we see the Troika plus happening there, and the Chinese intervention with regard to every other geopolitical issue that we are talking here invariably is connected to the geopolitics of South Asia, going beyond just the region, and probably Southern Asia is a much better terminology that we can use here.
Wonderfully put. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dr. Nanda Kishor. And you were also mentioning about how dependent the Pakistanis are, and it's of common knowledge that they're very dependent on China for economic help. Apart from depending on China to run their economy, what other options does Pakistan have on a serious note?
On a serious note, they still can work out and complete the projects that are given by China rather than begging whatever that's been promised with regard to CPEC. Right. But they are running backward in the sense they have not been able to complete anything on time, and the Chinese are upset with regard to that one. And they themselves are not being able to be innovative in terms of either reviving the industries or anything of that sort. I think that's when the crisis occurs with Pakistan. And invariably, believe it or not, in international relations, this is often experimented with regard to Pakistan, that some or the other international crisis occurs. When Pakistan was at the brink of collapse, the 9/11 happened. It just opened a new avenue for Pakistan to blackmail United States and then get more and more funding. In the same way, I think every time this happens, something happens. That's why I was telling about this in China, that one is completing the projects that has been asked by China to do so. Second way is arm twisting China by trying to say that now Taliban is upset with you, ISIS is upset with you, what is happening in Uyghur, and they're going to attack you, or they're going to do something like this. See the way I dealt with Taliban, in the same way I can deal with others as well. I can deal with ISIS as well. I can deal with every other extremist organization, and see to it that you are not troubled internally. So pay me money. That's one of the ways. Second is what we already discussed with regard to Iran, Pakistan playing the Iran card. Pakistan playing the Saudi card. By trying to play both the cards, it can still do. Third is trying to tell the United States that what you have done is to the best of your ability, but I will see to it that your image is taken care of, and I will tell that it tried its best to do whatever that was possible in Afghanistan. But then we took care of it and we entered into the scene, and now things are all right. And one should not blame the United States, because the United States led from the front with regard to Doha, with regard to many other rounds, seeing to it that the very way that they made sure that the democratically elected government was not involved in the peace process itself shows that how interested they were in the region, and they wanted to bring a solution to this one. This is how probably they would put across. These are some of the options that are available, because I don't really have a thought on whether they are as a service sector they can do something, as a manufacturing sector they can do something. Like the way if you ask me a question on any other country, I can say how they can diversify their economy, how they can revive their GDP, how they can revive their whole manufacturing sector and everything. I don't think that's applicable here. Neither they are interested about it. I think they just want to run story on ransoms. They want to run stories on backstabbing and then arm twisting. I think these are the regular ways they're used to. I think invariably international politics is helping them. International politics is
according to you,
producing avenues for them.
Right. What are the top reasons why these projects are not being carried out? So, I mean, is it terrorism or is it something else?
I don't think it can be called terrorism. It's a very precarious scenario, because I still remember, this is something that I've said time and again. We had Neela Qadri Baloch coming to the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, where she mentioned that very soon we might even have a Chinese chief minister in Balochistan. No, that goes absolutely against the sentiments of the Balochs. They're simply saying that every other day someone or the other goes missing in the Baloch region, and Balochistan has been an independent region and they've been forcibly kept under them. That's one of the ways of looking at it. So whatever the resistance movements that they're doing against the state cannot be called as terrorism, because one may draw a parallel to our own state and other things, but that's a complete different story altogether. Now, Balochistan will continue to resist everything that Pakistan is trying to do. And that's precisely why they're unable to carry out certain things. Second, you also require capacity. The Chinese have a 24/7 sort of working nature, which Pakistanis are not used to, neither they can match up to. So the expectations are extremely high, but the deliverables are zero, because they're only in talks. Pakistan would show heaven or Jannah to the Chinese in the talks, but in reality, I don't think they're even going closer to that one. So that pushes the Chinese to intervene and the Chinese to have their presence. When the Chinese are present, the Balochs are resisting. That's why you see terror instances that are happening. In the sense, I mean, when I say terror instances, that essentially means either the bombings or explosions that are happening, or the killings or threats that have been put across. Who knows, at the same time, this can be even by the Pakistanis themselves, just to see to it that they can have more time when they're unable to complete. Right? When you put up these type of instances, they're here leading up to few deaths. You can always say, this is a threat we are facing from Baloch rebels, right? Baloch National Army and other people. So we need more time. That's a bargaining tactics. You can ask for more time, saying that when this is a threat, see what all I'm doing to you, because you are my all-weather friend. So this can be even a way that Pakistan is trying to deal with the problem.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing all of these, Dr. Nanda Kishor. It's been a wonderful session, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And I hope you can join us again for a conversation.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Namaste. And to all our viewers, please do like, share, and subscribe to Citti Media. My name is Sharan Citti, and we will be bringing more current affairs shows in the future. Until then, this is me signing off.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.